All right, we're doing the plugs on the Subaru, the 2016 Subaru with the 2.5 liter engine, boxer. You'll see the batteries out, and the battery sits in this tray, and there are these 4 bolts, which I removed. They're not too difficult to remove. They are on pretty firm, and they obviously go in these holes here, here, here. All right. And one down there, you can see where I sprayed some wool wax. So the tray's gonna come out. And it should be pretty easy to get out. One-handed, of course, is never easy. That'd be nice to have this thing come out without driving me crazy. So it comes out. I may clean it up a little bit. So this plastic tray sits in that tray, and then the battery sits in that tray. And now we're going to be taking these coil packs off, which may be a bit of a challenge. Yeah, got it. Looks like a 10 millimeter. Yeah, I have to disconnect this connector here. We'll do that gently. And then we have another connector way over there. Yeah, let's see if I can get a light on it. Yeah, you can see the connection way over here, the connector. So we'll slip those off. The other side apparently is pretty straightforward. You take the air box out. Got to change the air filter anyway. And then you can see the coil packs sitting down there. Yeah. Well, you can't see them real well, but they are there. There's the coil packs there. Do the same thing. Takes a 14 millimeter socket for the spark plugs, and we'll go from there. So it's a little update. This is a $400 procedure at the dealership. And as I always say, I don't deny these guys making a living. I totally get it, but I think that I can do this. The plugs cost me $80. They were Subaru plugs. So we'll hum along, see how we get. Bye. Just a refresh, we're taking the plugs out of a 2016 Subaru Outback 2.5. I think it's the premium. I think that's the cheap model. This is the driver's side. This is where the battery sits. We're taking off the cables here. Pulled out all this tray, which is pretty easy to do, pretty straightforward. And then you can see where I've taken the coil packs out here. Let me get this pointer. Coil pack sitting there, coil pack sitting back there. They're pretty easy to take out. I actually just took a little crowbar and gently wiggled them out of this area. Now the key piece, which I don't want to forget, is actually disconnecting the coil packs from the electrical connector. And I'll try to get some light on it. For your accomplished mechanics, this is no big deal, but for someone like me, it is. So you can see, this is the coil pack right there. There still is a 10 millimeter socket that comes out, or bolt here, which then loosens this entire coil pack. Then you have the connection to the coil pack. Bring this camera down here. Right here. God, that's terrible lighting. Hopefully that'll be better. And you'll see that there's this clip. This clip is partially removed from the coil pack. And what you do is you slip in a pick like this one, or a small screwdriver, and just gently pull it out. It slides out of this groove here. It slides back here. I don't want to lose it. and then it slowly comes out. Then what I've done, I won't be able to do it one-handed, is I gently take a screwdriver and press it here and then slowly work this connector off while holding this out. And it slides out pretty easy. Do it evenly. Do it so that you're gently moving it out. Just do a little stick it in here, to stick it down here, and just slowly work it back. And you'll feel if it's ready to come out. And it will slowly work its way out. I'm gonna do the same thing with the second coil pack, which is here. And then it's a 14 millimeter socket. I'm not sure I'll have to take this connector off. It'll probably just, the coil pack will come out. It'll just work. But actually it's easier than I thought. Just take your time. That's all it requires on this stuff. Don't break stuff. There's no reason to break it. And I'll see you in a bit when I get to that point. All right, this is the fourth and final plug being installed. Here's the front one, and here's the rear one. Hopefully you can see my little finger touching it. Now, this is a socket that's got a wobble on it. And in order to get it all the way in, excuse me, I've got to have another wobble. So I've got two wobbles on it. Now, I also have a little adapter, which isn't on here, for my inch foot-pounds torque wrench. It's a 1/4 inch. I have a 1/4 inch to a 3/8 inch adapter, but it's on the table. Now this takes 13 foot-pounds, and 13 times 12, that's 12 inches per foot-pound. The way I do it is 10 times 12 is 120. 12 times 3 is 36. Add 120 plus 36, you got 156 inch-pounds. And I just put it at 150. It's close enough. I mean, really good mechanics do it all by hand. They just feel it. And the reason I'm pointing out the driver's side right rear is because if I didn't have this wobbly here and this wobbly, I couldn't have gotten it out. Now, they do make 3/4 inch sockets that are very thin heads, and they make 1 inch extensions. So I'm sure it could be done. I just couldn't do it with my equipment. So that's what I'm saying. I've already torqued this in. This is number 4. So it's actually going pretty well. And it is interesting to realize that this is a $400 job. And I totally get why it's a $400 job. It's not easy. But now that I've done one, oh God, it's much easier, of course, because obviously I have the tools. I've got the two wobblies. I've got the wobbly socket. I've got the wobbly extension. I understand the torque specs. So I've saved, I spent about $80 on Subaru spark plugs. And so I'm using original equipment spark plugs. And so $400 job, I've saved, $320. I've done it on my own schedule. I think the key for me personally is having the right equipment. Trying to do it without the right equipment, just a pain in the butt, not worth doing. And given that this side here is so tight that it's not an easy access. So obviously you got to buy the tools. But if you're into working on cars, that's just a wonderful benefit. Buying the tools, getting the wobbly socket that's a 14 millimeter. Now you own the tools forever. So if I need them again, which I will, since I've obviously had this 14 inch wobbly before, I've used it, I already have it. Now, tightening it is a big deal. You do not want to cross thread spark plugs threads. Let me repeat that. Aluminum head, you do not want to cross thread it. What a nightmare that would be. And if you don't know what a nightmare it would be, don't do it. Now, here are the plugs I took out. Plug, 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 plug. Notice there's no oil where the crush washer and that is. There's a little oil and stuff, possibly fuel, but I took my scope, which is right here, my little borescope, and ran it down the plug hole and saw no evidence of oil or anything else. And the reason that's important is you don't want to find out there's oil leaking in the spark plug holes. That could be a not a head gasket issue. That could be a valve cover gasket issue. It could be a spark plug gasket issue. It's just easier to do it right the first time. So I'm going to tighten it up. Things are going well. I'm doing it at my own pace. Life is good. Oh, and by the way, I should have commented that these spark plugs, when compared to the originals, look basically the same. So even though I did mine at 80-some thousand miles, they look great. The gap is good. I think it's, yeah, and everything looks good on it. It's got this cute little lip. There's this little tit. You got the center electrode, and then it's hard to tell, but there's this little shiny metal thing. Let me get a pointer. Right on the electrode here. You can sort of see it. Looks like it's stuck on there. Well, that's on the new ones too. Don't know what it's for. I assume it's to improve the spark quality. But this is essentially, looks the same as the new ones. They recommended it 60,000 miles. I had no problem doing it. So it's been a challenge. I also forgot to mention that I'm using Dielectric Grease. Use this stuff sparingly. I put it on the, right up here, put it on the sides, so that way it doesn't freeze to whatever I'm sticking it in. A little bit here on where the spark plug goes in there, so it slides in, and a little bit on the outside so it slides in the spark plug hole evenly. You don't have to put a lot. It's not that kind of thing. You don't want to overdo it. I used it once with too much. Had to clean out the connector because it was pushing back so much that I couldn't get the connector on the coil. So looks good. I may come back later. Talk to you later. All right, the Subaru Outback. It's 2016, 2.5 liter. It's a premium model, which is the base model, doesn't have any of the cool stuff. But as you can tell, it's all put back together. Put the air intake back in. I put a new air filter in. The old one was definitely dirty. I also cleaned the mass airflow sensor, which is here. I think there may be one there too. I'm not sure. I'll probably clean it later. What I've been told about these mass airflow sensors is you want to power them down. Do not let them be charged as you're cleaning them. And there is mass airflow sensor cleaner. And I'm sure I have it right there, folks. Mass airflow sensor cleaner. I also did the throttle body. Did the throttle body air cleaner, or cleaner. I cleaned up the connections for the battery. I got to spray a little battery anti-corrosion stuff on there. It'll be done later. Everything went back together pretty well. Like I said, on the driver's side, this left side, the rear plug, is a challenge. You'll need wobblies, you'll need time. One thing I always do, which I may or may not have mentioned, is that when I'm putting these plugs in, I always, oops, this is an old plug, no harm, no foul. I put them in, I gently put them in, and then I'll roll it back and forth until I'm 100% sure that these threads are engaged. Because I drive the plug in as far as I can go with my fingers. I do that because if there's any chance of this thing cross-threading, I don't want to do it. Cross-threading aluminum heads, I can't fix it. It requires a professional. It's something you don't want to do, so don't do it. So I will put the plug in, make sure I don't bend this electrode, get it nice and square and perpendicular to the threads, and then just gently thread it in. If you feel any resistance at all, I just back it up, try to get this flat so it's seated correctly, and then I'll repeat the process. And you'll know by the feel, as you're going in, it will feel smooth and easy. And if you can do it with your fingers like this, and it goes in smooth, you're good to go. Then, of course, I torqued it, as you know, 13 foot-pounds. Reassembled everything. Cleaned everything. I air dried the cleaner off the mass airflow sensor, and I wiped out the throttle body. Put the new air filter in. So I think the air filter is like a $70 procedure. They didn't even quote me a price for the mass airflow sensor and the throttle body cleaning. I doubt that it really matters. But I did the plugs, so I'm looking at about $480 worth of work. It started fine. One thing I did notice is that I had a number of codes. Not sure why. Obviously, the battery was disconnected, which you should do when you're working on a car. I did clean the mass airflow sensor. I did clean the throttle body. Not 100% sure what it meant. I did get a check engine light. But, of course, I have a scanner. So I just read the codes. Didn't seem like a really big deal. Deleted them. Car runs fine. Even with the codes, they were historical. Not sure what it means. Cleared the codes. The codes are off. The check engine light is off on the dash. So what I'll do is I'll dry this for a few days, get it all sorted out. I'll do the cabin air filter, which I've got in the next few days when I have a chance. And then I'm going to change the oil and the oil filter. You know, it never hurts to change it more than you need it. And then I'll drive it for a while and see how things go. I'm sure I've forgotten a part somewhere, but it's no big deal. I'll get this thing. I think there may be some piece missing here, but I'll find it. So it was worthwhile doing. Like I said, torque specs, have the right tools, take your time, don't be in a hurry. If the plugs aren't threading in super easy, super buttery, stop what you're doing, back the plug out, and make sure those threads are totally lined up. Do not strip the threads. Nightmare in the making. You don't want to try to save money and then spend $1,000 on a helicoil. It's just so nuts. And then you've got to have the vehicle towed, and that's a couple of $100. So that would be what I call penny wise and pound foolish. If in doubt, ask for help. I've got a mechanic around here, Forrest, who I could say, hey, Forrest, I'll pay you for an hour worth of your time. My house is on its way home. I could say, could you come by and help me? I didn't have to do that. Oh, and one more thing. These connectors here, the little clips. Yeah, I better get a screwdriver to point it out. They're a bit of a pain in the butt. So what did I learn about these connectors? You don't necessarily have to take them off. I mean, you have to take the connectors off, obviously, but there's this, try to get the screwdriver there without losing it. You can see that, yeah, I lost the screwdriver. Gravity. Gravity. There is a little silver connector. Boy, it's hard to do things with. You need 3 hands and you've only got 2. God, there's lots of reasons why I'd like to have 3 hands, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose. And I'll try to get this thing lined up and see if I can get, you'll see a little silver clip. I'm trying to get the camera right there. There's a little silver clip, and I pointed out what you do is you pull it out and it disengages. It stays connected to the plastic, which is what I would recommend you do. Don't pull it all the way off, which I did because it was a nightmare to get back on. So that's just a security clip. You obviously put the connector back onto the coil pack, which is right there. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, that's the coil pack right here. The black thing. And then you'll see these little silver bolts which hold the coil packs in. And there's the coil pack. There's the silver bolt. See if I can get a picture of it. A lot harder to do than you can imagine. So hopefully you can see the tip of the screwdriver on the bolt. It's a little hard to see, but you'll know when you're in there. That's about 5 or 6 foot-pounds. Just snug it down. Just snug it. I didn't use a torque wrench, no reason to. But remember, aluminum heads, you want to be careful. Take your time. When in doubt, back off. Find out what the torque specs are. The plugs are 13 foot-pounds. Those little bolts on the coil packs are about 6 foot-pounds. You'll know, it's an educated hand. But it runs fine. Cleared the codes. Everything's good. I'm happy. Talk to you later. Bye.